Hello and welcome back for another edition of the Oregonian OregonLive's Beaver Banter podcast. I'm Nick Daschel and I cover Oregon State football for the Oregonian. We're recording this a couple days after the Beavers' 21-0 win at San Diego State, the first shutout in a road game since 1983, so pretty historic performance for the Beavers. This Saturday, it's the 128th renewal of the Oregon State football series. We're joined on the podcast, as usual, by former Oregon State defensive lineman Isaac Hodgins. Welcome back, Isaac.
Hey, I'm pumped up after that game, man. I was going to ask you, when was it, 1980?
The last actual shutout was 2021 at Reser against Idaho. The last road shutout was the notorious 0-0 tie against Oregon at Autzen in 83. The last shutout in a win on the road was 1976 at Hawaii. There actually was a shutout in a bowl game, 2008, I believe it was the Sun Bowl, the 3-0 game, the one that put everyone to sleep.
I'll tell you what, there's nothing more rewarding as a defensive player to have a shutout. Give someone a big goose egg. I mean, there's nothing better you could do. I was ecstatic after that, especially on the road.
Yeah, I was standing next to the box on the 20-yard line. A bunch of the defensive players, Jaden Robinson, other guys were. They were watching the screen. They were some kind of fired up with about 2 minutes to go. The only thing you just, I guess you just want to see is, San Diego State getting some fluke touchdown in the last 30 seconds or something.
That's what always happens.
Or remember the Vegas Bowl where Florida kicked the field goal. That was kind of cheap too, but I'm sure you guys weren't happy about that. But
that's why it's so hard in college football, because it's like you just get one big pass and you chip in a field goal. Oh, we didn't get shut out. You know what I mean? But that's
just cheap. You don't kick a field goal in the last minute of a game just so you
gotta have some pride, right? You got to be able to say we didn't get shut out. But be playing modern football on the road and get a shutout that's impressive. Like that, I don't know if the media has been covering it enough. Like, I haven't been following all too close, but you guys need to cover it. There needs to be more noise about that, because that's like impressive. Like to go into someone else's house and not allow a single field goal or a single touchdown is absolutely, that's just good ball right there. That's great ball. Phenomenal ball.
Well, I wore it out the last couple of days, so I don't know if anybody else did, but Where did you watch the game at home on TV or?
Yeah, I was just watching it at home on TV, and I was yelling at the TV like, "Come on!" When Jack Conne forced that fumble on the goal line, like, come on, that's the best, right? That is the best, because you're like, oh, they're about to score, and then you knock that ball out, man, and you recover it.
Right?
That's like scoring a touchdown on defense.
Yeah. When you're watching, are you watching like a fan, or do you kind of get caught up like a player, or do you watch for certain things, or
like I'm like on that goal line play, I'm watching, like make them bounce back to your own your leverage, and make them come back inside. If the ball pops out, I'm sure every fan does this, but it's just a natural instinct to just go ball. Because when you're on the field and you see a ball, everyone just yells ball and run and try and go get on it. So I kind of scare my wife sometimes. We were watching it together, and I yelled ball, and she was covered her ear. I almost blew out her eardrum.
Wow. Do you have a text chain going with former players? I know a lot of guys. I've heard that from a lot of different players that they got text chains going during games.
Yeah, we're just, always talking with my guys all the way across the country. It's kind of hard to keep up with it because people are on the East Coast or whatever it may be, but Pac-12 after dark, or Pac-2 after dark, or whatever you want to call it now. It gets kind of hard.
How many guys do you have on a text chain?
It's just, it's mostly just me and one of my good defensive line buddies. We still chat every now and again on whenever we watch the games and whatnot. But I don't have too much of a chain going.
Oh, okay. So You don't really get to celebrate now, though, after a win like that. I guess you could, but not like you did when you were playing.
Yeah, no. I went out after the game and was like, yeah, we just flew back from San Diego State, and people were asking for my autograph and stuff at the restaurant, and no, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
None of that happened. I'm all washed up now.
You went and got ice cream or something like that. Or
I'm gonna wait until we beat the Ducks, and I'm gonna storm the field with everyone else.
that would be great. That'll be a field storming. I would think they beat Oregon. That'll be a field storming.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean,
there's no question about it. What's a plane ride like after a win like that?
Oh man, after a win like that, I don't know. No one's sleeping. Everyone's laughing. Everyone's out of their seat. There maybe it's just like a little party on the plane. You could think of it like that.
Yeah.
Especially even on the bus ride back, everyone's just excited to go celebrate. That's a huge win on the road. First win by Coach Bray as a head coach on the road. Winning road games aren't easy. Like that's very hard to do, especially with the team where these guys haven't played together for very long. It's awesome to see. So I'm sure those guys were pumped up.
Yeah, I mean, it took. Well, I guess you guys won 3. Didn't you win 3 road games your second year at Oregon State, 2019? Was it Arizona and?
Yeah, I think there was
Arizona, UCLA, and somewhere else. I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember it either. But
you should have won the game at Washington State, and that would have.
Yeah, don't bring that one up. That one still makes me mad to this day. I knew they were running the ball. I knew it. I should have jumped off sides and killed the play, and because we were ready to go for a pass. We did drop 8. We had 4 people in the box. It was horrible. It was bad. It's bad play. Bad decision of us. I heard the run calls from the offensive line. I should have just jumped off sides and, the ball would have moved 2 inches forward. But
yeah, but I mean, the offside doesn't stop a play, though. They could still.
Well, if I make contact, it will.
Oh, right.
Make contact with the center. Hit them. That's usually what you're supposed to do. Because penalty in that area, it's going to move the ball inch forward. We're going to play ball still. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I still remember this 5 years later. I still remember the hit Jalen Moore laid on that one receiver right down there on that final drive. I think they tried. Did they call targeting? I think they called targeting.
Yeah, I believe it was. Yeah.
That was probably one of the hardest hits I've ever seen in college football. NFL is a different level, but college.
Hopefully J-Mo doesn't hear that. You're gonna boost his head up, and he's gonna go tell everyone and show everyone this clip.
Well,
he lived for that. He lived for just cleaning someone's clock. He was a good player.
He did. That's for sure. What's a plane ride after a loss? Is it like everybody's
it's
super quiet?
Complete opposite. The worst one I could think of was the Washington game in 2020. There was no even fans in there, but that was just a tough loss.
Yeah, that was the one where they could never seem to get the yard marker right on the Jamar Jefferson runs and
right. Somehow it wasn't a first down, but that was just dead silent. Everyone's just kind of to themselves. But, it's one of those things where whether you win or you lose, as soon as we hit the tarmac and we go through practice that next day, like it's over. All celebration is over. All boo-hoo and woe is me is over. Like it's on to the next game. You can't dwell on it too long in this world. Yeah.
Felt like we learned a lot more about the Beavers in this game than Idaho State. I think it confirmed Oregon State can run the ball. They can defend the run because they have a running back he was the NCAA's active yardage leader for somewhere around 4,100 yards. He didn't really make much of an impact in the game. Thought they played with some adversity. Javari McCoy showed he can move, in the pocket a lot. He passed more, and so he was able to show he could. He doesn't run, but he does move, and so.
Right.
Is that kind of what did you feel like you learned out of this game?
I mean, what I learned out of this game was just seeing that offensive line just literally moving the line of scrimmage 2 yards every play, just in the direction of going forward. Like just to be able to see your offensive line, if you would just run behind them, you're going to get 2 yards every play, 3 yards every play. That's good football right there. So I that game gave me a lot of confidence in the offensive line, and just they're able to go and physically dominate the line of scrimmage and move people. I mean, it was impressive. It was impressive to see. It was impressive to see that first drive of just, some explosive plays. It looked like Beaver football. It looked like we were running the ball down people's throat, and then we were dynamic and explosive plays, and it just looked like the brand of football that I'm used to seeing from the offense, especially that first drive.
Yeah.
I was glad to see that.
Where did you see the most improvement from week 1 to week 2 up front and defense? Where did you feel like you saw the most?
Yeah, I would say the offensive line. The way they were working together, you could tell in the first game, there's kind of people were leaving blocks kind of early, and defensive linemen were kind of getting through to making too much penetration in the backfield.
Yeah.
So you saw that there were some guys kind of not working together quite well, and then it just looked good. It looked like good offensive line play. It looked like something they could be proud to put on tape. So that was really impressive to see. And then it was just good to solidify like this defensive line play that they have going on. Nico did amazing. He's affecting the passer, batting balls down, getting sacks, pressures on the quarterback. So it's good to see that we have the ability to affect the passer without necessarily getting a ton of sacks.
Yeah, your guy Thomas Collins, he's a beast, man. Two games. Oh,
yeah, I told you.
He's he looks right now like the best defensive lineman out there.
Yeah, I tried telling you guys. I got to get on him a little bit to make sure he's good on everything. But I tried telling you guys he's a little ball of energy, and he's explosive, and he's quick. Man, he's quick off the ball. There was one play where it's just, ball snapped. He's past the guard, making a tackle for loss. Yeah, it was good to see. It was impressive.
San Diego State had the freshman quarterback Danny O'Neill. He didn't get sacked, and I don't think there was too many of what they would call quarterback hits, but he didn't do much either. So, how much pressure did you see from Oregon State's defensive line on him?
I think we did have one sack, right? Nico got a sack, didn't he?
I don't think so. Let me look here. I don't think I saw a sack, but I thought.
Yeah, he got a sack. So we had one sack.
Right. Okay, there was. I was looking at the wrong. Oh, yeah, you're right. He did have one, and he had 2 tackles for loss. Okay. And Nico had 2 tackles for losses, and one of them was a sack. What's that?
You can't try to take the credit away from a defensive lineman when he gets a sack. Hey, that's my biggest pet peeve.
Okay, well, he did get a sack. Okay, well, what did you think of the pressure on that quarterback? Because he didn't really do much. And I thought Trent Bray brought this up. He said he thought the windows closed considerably from week 1 to week 2 from Oregon State. The receivers had a much harder time getting open. I don't know if you saw that or not, but that was one of the things Trent brought up today.
Saying our receivers or their receivers?
Their receivers didn't have a lot of. There wasn't a big window to throw to by their quarterback.
Yeah. No, I agree with that, and I think that's kind of where the play has to work together, where your back end is allowing the defensive line to get there enough time to get to the quarterback. I think there was plentiful time there was a few opportunities, but I just felt like San Diego State couldn't get in a rhythm. And at the end of the day, your job as a defensive lineman is make sure that quarterback stays out of rhythm. So, obviously he was feeling it. It's one of the worst things you could have as a quarterback is a batted pass. You have a wide open wide receiver, it's going to be a first down, and then it just gets batted. It's demoralizing. So there's more ways to affect
it. Happened on the first series. So, that's probably a good time to do that, just to kind of get into his head a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, it's like, what do you do? It's not like I got sacked, but it's just as good as a sack. I mean,
Yeah.
especially on like a third down, second, whatever it may be. So I think we did a good job making sure the offense didn't get rolling on their first few plays in the series, and they could just never get in a rhythm. And that's your goal at the end of the day.
The first half was I mean, it was owned by Oregon State, but they only led 7-0 at halftime, and you got one play and the game's flipped. What's the feeling like going into halftime up 7-0 versus say even 10-0? Where had Everett hit that field goal right before halftime, it would have been 10-0. Do you feel
Right.
like you dominated, but you left some stuff out there, or do you feel pretty good, or how would you feel about it?
I mean, in my head, I already hear Josh Gray hollering out, down the tunnel, 0-0 ball game, 0-0 ball game. So at the end of the day, no matter what the score was in the first half, coming into that second half, it's 0-0. If you treat it as like, oh, we got a lead, let me kind of just pat my stats a little bit, and no, you got to put some nails in the coffin and make sure them boys don't get out of that coffin. So I mean, at the end of the day, it's a 0-0 ball game. And that's all you're thinking of, like, how can I go into the second half not thinking I'm winning, not thinking I'm losing, but just trying to win this half here.
Yeah. Fans love to talk about this, and I always wondered, they talk about, this coach is great at adjustments and this coach isn't, and how much is really going on at halftime with how much is going on in there?
My first few years at Oregon State, there was a lot going on at halftime, just because there was basically nothing good we could do defensively. So, it got to a point where it was like, I mean, we got to throw this play back in, we got to throw that back in. With Coach Bray, the defense is it works so much to our strengths of like being an attack style defense. The only thing you have to do is just keep playing fast. That's the only thing he'll adjust is if we see guys are going too high on tackles, start going low, make sure you're not, you're staying in the strike zone. Really, it's just coaching on basics, and it's just like play our ball, play our style of ball. Unless you're just getting completely torched, and now it's like, okay, whatever we planned before the game, we got to readjust here. And that does happen, but that's more rare.
Yeah. So the second half really just came down to two series. First, the fumble. San Diego State gets down inside the 5. They got 3rd and 3, or I think it's 3rd and 4 or 3, something like that in goal. And O'Neal tries to go in with a quarterback run. When that ball's on the ground, you've been in that situation before, I assume. When the ball's on the ground, what's that look like? What kind of take us through what that's like?
I mean, there's first of all, our job as a defense is to take the ball away. So when you see that ball on the ground, initially it's okay. I need to go get on this ball. I got to do whatever I got to do to get the ball. I've had a situation where I did recover the ball, and there was physical pain of like these large offensive linemen on top of you, and you just can't breathe. And so you're just fighting as hard as you can to keep control of that ball. You're in the fetal position to kind of protect it from all angles and sides. And people will do anything to get that ball. So the offensive linemen, they're scratching you, they're poking you in places they shouldn't poke you. They're doing whatever they can to get the ball, and vice versa. Like if you're in a dog pile, that's what it is. It's a dog pile. The biggest dog is to come out with that ball. So you gotta fight and scratch and claw literally for that ball, and people will do that for sure. So I got some funny stories at the bottom of the dog pile, that's for sure.
I can't even imagine what they're poking at when they're. Geez.
Yeah, we don't have to go in details, but
but it can get painful down there, I take it.
For sure.
And then the ball's at the 2. Oregon State has the ball at the 2, and they go 98 yards and 13 plays for a touchdown. I mean, that cannot be any more demoralizing for a team. That's game over. It was really game over at that point, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it starts getting a little disrespectful when a team starts going for, if it's not dire need and they're going for it on 4th and 6, 4th and 4, and they're going for it on their own side of the field, that gets a little, like, or even if they're on the 50, it's a little, at that point as a defense, you're like, oh, dang, they're really disrespecting us right now. But then to go from flipping the field, I mean, there's certain statistics you could look at. If you start on the 2 yard line, your odds of scoring any points is like less than 3% or something like that. We used to learn that, like, what are the odds of ball position and when you get the ball, where you start on the field, what are the odds of you getting any points.
Right.
It's like starting on your own 2 yard line. It's like the odds are basically none. So when you get some points out of that situation, you're very happy.
Yeah.
You're very sad if you're the defense.
Well, anyway, that was a 21-0 win. Oregon State's 2-0, and now it's on to the Oregon Ducks. I want to talk a little bit about this series because there's a lot. It seems like there's a lot to get into here. But what was your intro? Being from California, you didn't really have nothing with this. I mean, you just knew that they're both in the same state, pretty much. I'm guessing.
Right.
Or did you ever watch any Oregon State games growing up, or?
Never watched it growing up, which is kind of crazy, but I don't have any real memories of watching it growing up. My first memory was Isaiah obviously committed to go to Oregon State in 2016 or 2017, whatever it was. But it was the Civil War game where it was pouring rain and Ryan Nall was just running that rock. And it was one of those games where Oregon State, came from behind and just ran the ball down Oregon's throat.
16, yeah.
Yeah, 2016. And it was pouring rain. And I remember videos of Elu Aiden just standing there in the big number 99 jersey, pumping the crowd up. And I just remember just like Oregon State just dominating Oregon. And I remember the press conference afterwards, which was kind of controversial, where, what was it? Gary Anderson said, "We knew we had them when they had the parkas on," or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So I mean, that was my first intro to the Civil War, and from that point, I was just like, "Oh man, this is awesome!" Like as soon as I committed, like I'm full blown. I hate those guys down south. Like let's go kick their butts.
What as a player, what was your intro to the Ducks series? I mean, as a freshman, do you remember anything specifically from that game that
I think I had it wasn't my first sack that game, but I sacked Justin Herbert that game. And I just remember when I got that sack, it was early on in the game. They were like on our 35-yard line, did a good move on the tackle, sacked them. And I just remember the crowd being so loud. Like it was so surreal. That was my favorite sack I've ever gotten. And so I just remember that like euphoria of like, whoa, like I just got this huge sack in this game. Like it just changed the game. And then we went on getting blown out. So it really didn't change the game, but in the moment it felt like it was a game changing play. So that was my intro for sure. Yeah.
How did your feelings grow toward Oregon as you went from, 2018 to 2023?
The hatred grew even more. I had a teammate, Cody Anderson. He would show up to first team meeting of the Civil War. He would show up in duck hunting gear. He was a big duck hunter, and he would just show up with his face painted and stuff, just team for every team meeting, for the first one. And so I definitely grew bitter because those first few years we struggled a lot, to even make it competitive. But once that 2020 game kind of happened, and from then on out, it was like, no, we could beat these guys. And, I think, I forget how many, what I was in the series. We won 2022.
You'd been 2-4.
Yeah,
you didn't play in one. You didn't play in one of them, obviously. So 2-3. Which year didn't you play? The 20.
Yeah, I didn't play the 2021 game.
That was the one at Autzen. So you'd been 2-3 then in the games you played.
Yeah. So,
You played in both the win. You played in both the wins at Reeser.
yep.
The
And
comeback one
then,
last time, and
yeah, so early on there, I was like, man, are we ever going to beat these guys?
yeah,
But, once you get that first win, you're like, these dudes are this just another team. Like, they're beatable, just
yeah.
like anyone else. So,
Who on your team held the biggest grudge against Oregon during your tenure?
for sure, Cody Anderson. I mean, he's the Springfield kid, grew up in Springfield and grew up a Beef fan in that part of the neck of the woods, and he just. I remember my freshman year, seniors were a lot more serious about it. Where if you wore anything green, like they would like rip it off of you, like Gus Lavaca, guys like that who you
Yeah.
just didn't mess with, but they would like rip it off of you and make you change your shirt. Got a little bit too lax for my liking towards the end of my career. People would show up in like a dark green camo kind of shirt. It's like, bro, don't wear that during. Don't wear
Did
that.
you ever have to? So as you got older, did you ever have to school some of the young players who didn't really know much about the series about taking this thing seriously, or?
Yeah, I mean, we did, but it was always just it was always such a big game because they were a good team. I
Yeah,
feel like people kind of understood like, oh, this is an important game, and a lot of our seasons rode on that game. If
yeah.
we won this game, we'd go to a better bowl game, or we'd go to a bowl game if we won. So it's not very hard to tell someone how important it is.
Yeah.
But
How do rivalry feelings help in preparation for a game?
yes, I mean it helps with. I remember our first year. And it was maybe a little overboard, but during practice, Coach Mack had all the scout team players that came in on golf carts, waving the duck flag, and came into their music, and they wrote stuff on their helmets like talking trash to us, like making jokes about people on our team, just
Yeah,
to like kind of get us in that mood of like people are going to say something to you on the field to try to get you to get out of your character or whatever it may be. So you definitely have to practice being under this stress of we don't like each other. People are going to want to do extra. They want to give an extra shove after the whistle, say something about your mom or something. You know, People are going to do whatever they can to try to win a game.
yeah.
So you gotta make sure your head's on right. But it's gonna be interesting this year. Like is Oregon gonna have the same feelings towards us, as they have in the past? Are we gonna have the same feeling towards them? It's just kind of weird.
I mean, my feeling is that Oregon State has pretty much all the motivation in this game because this is the one game on the schedule where they can really make a statement and catch everyone's attention.
Yep. I agree.
You can't really sell that throughout the way. I don't know.
Yeah.
You can get a little too overhyped, I guess, but I feel like the focus, Oregon State will not lack for focus in this game.
Yeah.
How weird will it be to play this game so early in the year?
Yeah, it's definitely weird. I don't feel like there's a good enough build, like there's usually this build up, this, we're kind of following how they're doing and they're following how we're doing. And, all it's just different. The weather is different. You got the kind of rain and the cold playing into it. Thanksgiving, everyone's family's up here. It's definitely going to be a little, I feel like it's going to have a different feeling. But like you said, like if you go out and win this game, that's sending a huge message to all of college football, right? Because you're no longer playing a Pac-12 team, you're playing a Big Ten team. So that
Big
sends a
Ten team
message.
that people think can win a national title, even
Right.
if they are off to a little bit of a different start than most people thought. But
Right.
so the Oregon game last year, that one had to leave a little bit of a bad taste in your mouth, I imagine.
Oh yeah.
Did you guys know that Smith was leaving? I mean, before the game, did you guys know?
It was never directly said, but I think everyone knew, because there was you said there will be no lack of focus for this game. Last year, there was a complete lack of focus, right? I mean, everyone was in the locker room, kind of not even focused on the game. They were focused on what next year is going to look like. And, it was at that point where I was kind of like, oh man, I don't know if we're going to win this game. You got to be focused for this game. This is the last game. You can't go in questioning what's going to happen next year. We're supposed to focus on what's ahead of us right here, right now. So there definitely was a lack of focus on our end from last year for sure.
Had you ever seen anything like that in your college career? I mean, not that situation necessarily, but just the team that was sort of unfocused.
I would say the only time I saw that was in 2018, was when, people just kind of didn't play as a team. We just played individually and for ourselves. And we had a lot of good talent on that 2018 team, but we just didn't come together culturally as a unit. So that's the only time I can really compare it to, of just a lack of focus, of everyone's just focused on what they're going to do for next year, or, are they going to transfer or whatever. Maybe I would say that'd be the only comparison. And we all know how bad that 2018 team was. So,
Yeah. I was going to ask you if the team was distracted, during the game, but I mean, you obviously were. I mean, I know I was talking Scott Barnes half the game, trying to find out what's going on with Jonathan. And so I missed half the game because I was trying to get a hold of Barnes about what's going on. So,
I don't think anyone was. I don't think fans were focused on that game. I don't think anyone was. It was almost like we were on to the bowl game already, or we were on to next year, preparing for next year.
I mean, Smith had to know he was leaving. He tried to tell us after the game, we're still haven't decided. And you don't make a decision like that overnight. It was made. I just can't believe it. I can't believe he could even say that. But this does sound like it did impact the game for sure.
It did for sure. And, I love Coach Smith still. I understand, this is the landscape of college football now. It's more business than anything. It's got to be, you know what I mean? He did what was best for him and his family and whatnot. But, for the sake of that game, there was definite lack of focus. It was almost like everyone chalked it up as an L already. Like, let's just see what bowl game we're in, and see who transfers and who doesn't.
I mean, there's no clean way for a guy to leave. I mean, these days you just, it's just, it's going to be messy regardless. I mean, it could have been better probably, but I mean, the net result of it is I think he was better. I think he left Oregon State in a better spot than what he left when he came to Oregon State. I mean, he did some good things.
Definitely.
Yeah,
most definitely.
But that's not something fans want to hear right now, though. They still kind of bitter about it. But this is not another game, right? I mean, if a coach tells you that, do you go, "Are you kidding me?" or do you believe him?
It is another game, though. At the end of the day, it's a game, and you're not playing a logo or whatever it is. It is just another game. All you have to do is go into the film room, break down the film, find the tendencies, and make your game plan and drill that game plan. And honestly, if you go in as a player thinking like, oh man, like you go in with your anxiety level too high before the game, you're not gonna be able to perform well. So you have to go in. It's like, this is just football. At the end of the day, just football. Line me up against this other guy and let me win my one-on-one. If everyone goes out and wins their one-on-one, we're gonna have a good game. And I think if you try to like mysticize these guys as like, oh, they're these guys down south and they're this, they're that. That's where you start getting in trouble and you start to, you lose the battle before you're even out there.
Yeah. So where will you be Saturday? You'll be at Reeser?
Oh yeah. No doubt about that one. I'm there. I'm gonna be in the players' lounge watching from the end zone view. watching some Beavers get some sacks because I don't think we're gonna. I don't know. I wasn't in the game plan this week or anything, but I don't think it's gonna look as vanilla defensively as it has been looking. You know.
Well, that was that. I had a few reader questions here, and that was one of them. One of them was asked: is the offense holding back? But I would also add: is the defense holding back? I mean, do you think have you seen much out of anything exotic out of either side first two games?
Nope. I mean, there was the flea flicker. That was pretty exotic, but defensively, it's looked pretty vanilla. And knowing coach, I mean, I don't want to put too much out there for anyone else to hear, but I don't think the less you know about a team, the better for you. You know what I mean? Like the less they know about you, the better. And I think that's been done strategically. Like I'm speaking out of two sides of my mouth, right? Because I say, oh, it's just like every other game. But if it's just like every other game, then your game plan would be the same, right? It's like, oh, no, you kind of have to, you got to know your enemy, know your opponent, right? So was there some planning in advance defensively to not show, your packages earlier on in the season to prepare for this third game? So were you preparing for game 3, game 1? I'm
certain of it. I'm certain that they haven't. I'm certain they're holding stuff back for this game. I mean,
right. And so it goes back to your question of like, oh, is it really just another game? Like everyone says, it's like, I want to say no, right? Like mentally, like I go in thinking it's not just another game, but there is strategically, as you look at your schedule for the season, you do strategically game plan for the season. You know what I mean?
One of the questions was, what defender have you seen so far that you feel like has improved the most this year from last year?
I think Samisi has improved tremendously. Last year he was kind of getting his feet underneath him, and but this year he's just out there. He looks like a different player. He's commanding it. Him, Nico Taylor, they're both just like out there playing fast, and then obviously Skylar Thomas pops off on the film. But we didn't see him at all last year. You know what I mean? So
yeah. Is the defense that good, or is it the quality of the opponent?
It's tough to say. I would say give them their props. It's hard to go on a road game and give someone 0 points. That's hard to do. So I don't care who you're playing. If you give someone 0 points, you give them a goose egg, and you're on the road. That's impressive. Like that's good football. We'll see. I think it's going to be a different test this Saturday for sure.
Someone asked, can they make 3 quarterbacks work? And I would say they're not really playing 3 quarterbacks right now. All 3 played Saturday, but Giovanni's clearly the number one. They give Jabari 1 series, or maybe 2, and then Ben came in at the end. I mean it would be impossible to play 3 quarterbacks in a game on a rotation. Wouldn't that just be what would that be like? I mean,
that would just be cruel to everyone involved. That would be cruel for sure. I mean, I think the football season is long, and I think there's a lot of football left, and so we'll kind of see what formates, and you have a plan going in, but sometimes you have to veer off that plan. I don't know. But it looks like they got a pretty strong flow going with Giovanni going. I think he did good. Handled good game managing. Missed a few throws, but all in all, thought he handled himself like a vet.
Yeah. Let's see this last question. It's probably more for me. It says, if the Beavers are looking to join a Power 4 conference, will they need to expand Research Stadium at seats? The answer to that is no. That is not ever going to happen. That's not what college football is anymore. It's not about expanding stadiums. It's about making the seats more expensive and better experiences. People are watching games from home. They're not. They're just. I mean, they're just not.
Yeah.
I mean, if they were redo Watson Stadium, if they expand that would be crazy. They need to make that place a better stadium for the fans.
Right. My dad had a few choice words for that. He was kind of upset that they like downsized the stadium like that. But at the end of the day, you got to kind of play to your, if you're not already packing out the stadium, make it even bigger. So it's like less comfortable for the fans and looks more empty. You know what I mean? It'd be a whole different story.
There's no bench seats. I always think it's better to make it a tougher ticket, Sell.
Yeah.
I mean, 36,000 seats is a good size. I mean, is that place loud enough on the field? Do you feel like it's loud enough? Does it need to be louder? I mean, what do you hear? Well, you were down the field when the fans were cheering last year.
It's pretty loud, but there is a distinct difference between playing here and then playing at Ohio State.
Okay, well, that's triple the size, though. That's triple the size.
Yeah. So I mean. There is a difference for sure, but I think we got some ferocious fans, so there definitely is that Reeser effect where people come in and play at Reeser. It's a lot different than playing. It's a hard place to play.
I mean, even USC commented in 2022 about how loud Reeser was with just the one side. They thought that made a big difference in the game was the crowd noise. I
wonder if some of it had to do with the acoustics of he had some. I don't like it was just bouncing off of the construction site.
I don't know. I do not see most schools needing to add seats to stadiums anymore. It's just those big screens in warm houses are pretty nice in November.
No, I mean, and then also, I mean. Half the time you go to the game, everyone's just staring at the jumbotron. I'm like, dude, the game's right in front of your face.
Including players, they like to watch it too.
Yes. But to be fair to us, we can't see because people are standing in front of us. So if you're sitting on the bench, but it could be the same in the seats as well in the stadium.
I mean, there'll probably be a day when you don't go to a game at Reeser. You'll stay at home and watch. It'll be pouring down rain, and you'll go, I think I'll watch from home. You will. You watch. You'll do that.
Anytime, if I'm living in Corvallis, I'm at a home game, unless I'm in the hospital. All right.
Somebody at Oregon State did tell me they saw you at the first game, and they were just amazed at how you look different now. You're so much. They didn't really recognize you because you're so much smaller.
Yeah, it's kind of sad, They said I was small. Come on, man. I still got some.
Maybe it's not small.
Weight on in the weight room.
Much thinner, I guess.
Yeah.
Have you been in the weight room though?
Not as much as I need to be, but I've been trying.
What can you bench now?
Oh gosh, don't ask me that. Shoot, I could still put up 3 plates for sure, but it might be a struggle.
Yeah.
Back when I was 50 pounds ago, I was throwing up 3 plates for 12 plus reps.
Yeah.
But now it might be a struggle. So
well, you don't need to anymore. So
yeah.
Well, I think we'll just wrap it up with that. I'm not going to ask you for a pick because if you picked Oregon, you would people would call
me
you
off the podcast if that ever happens.
They would definitely not be happy. So I'm not going to ask you for a pick on the game.
I might have some bricks through my window or something.
I'm assuming you think Oregon State's going to win Saturday.
Yes, go Bees! I'm putting on my Beaver hat. We're winning this Saturday.
We're one of those orange cowboy hats that the students wear. Remember that? Was it 2 years ago they were wearing the orange cowboy hats at the Duck game and that was
bring those back.
I saw some of the players wearing like 5 or 10 of them on their head after the game, and that was wild. So
yeah.
All right, well, hey, let's wrap it up here. You'll be able to get this podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll be back next week to talk about the Duck game. maybe it'll be a win. Isaac says it's going to be a win. So then we'll be talking about Purdue. There's another team you've played in the past. So 21. Did you play that game? I can't remember.
No, I actually didn't play that game. I was injured that one. I was so upset about that one because, man, I was going to eat versus their offensive line. I was going to eat that game. But
well, I was there. I can't remember if that was a game you were there. I thought was that the year you had the foot injury?
Yep.
Oh, okay, that's right. Yeah, that's right. And so you missed the whole season. So well. Anyway, you'll get to see him again. You get to watch another.
I get to watch again.
Get to watch another Purdue Oregon State game. That's in a couple weeks. So anyway, we'll see you next week. Thanks.
Go Beavs.